Well, tomorrow, the Yankees and Red Sox will finish their series when they play the Sunday night game on ESPN and ESPN2. We're going to have post-game coverage as soon as the game ends. So right after the final out, make sure you go right to Yes or the Yes app for breakdowns and analysis. We also want to remind you that we will have post-game shows after all the games this season, no matter where they are carried. Great to have you back once again. Our ball game today on Yes and the Yes app. And, of course, the Yankees come away with a 4-2 win. Let's hear from Aaron Boone about it in the manager's report.
Aaron, what did you think of Severino?
Sevy was good. One mistake, I think, trying to go down and away and just kind of pulled that right in the hot zone. And Verdugo, put a good swing on it, didn't miss it. They made it tough on him. The Vasquez at bat, where he had to really work, where he's spoiling a bunch of pitches, rising his count. But I thought he kept making pitches, even as he got, I think he threw 30 pitches-ish in that second inning. So it was getting to a point where I might have had to go get him. But I thought overall he threw the ball really well.
Considering the fact that he hasn't served as a starter since 2019, what's the biggest takeaway for you after this one?
I think it's another building block, and obviously as we build him up, I thought he finished spring training in a good way, in a good spot, ready for this start. I thought he picked up where he left off. Again, just really the one mistake. Otherwise, I thought he was pretty sharp.
Anthony Rizzo, Giancarlo Stanton, just 2 games, but can you just speak to the way that they've started their season offensively?
Yeah, Riz is in a good spot right now. Has just missed another pitch or two. On top of the 2 homers where he's had a chance. But good to see him just, I know, in a good place with his mechanics and his swing. I know he feels real good, so that's nice. And then G had a lot of good at-bats tonight ahead of the home run. Smoked 2 balls on the ground his first couple times and hit one like G hits it for the homer. So, yeah, good to see the big boys doing some damage.
Susan?
When you have a bullpen like that, they were all terrific. Higgy told me on the field that he went out to Marinaccio and said, just trust your stuff, and then Riz came over too. What's it like for a manager to watch a kid making his major league debut in his hometown and get that inning?
Yeah, I love his makeup, so I knew he'd get through it, but also knowing that's a big moment. I'm sure there were those nerves. It was really good to see. I saw Rizzo go first because I know Matt was thinking about going out just to settle him a little bit, but they handled it. I thought it's the perfect timing for Riz and Higgy to go out there and exactly that. Trust your stuff. You're in here and on this team because you're more than capable. And thought he locked in from there and started executing pitches like he can.
Brian, to the left.
Stanton has now homered 6 straight games against Boston, including the postseason. What do you think it is about that rivalry, the matchup that gets that production out of him?
I don't know. We're talking about it, just a great hitter and a great power hitter. And dating back now, he was in a pretty locked in place, and when G gets locked in, that's what happens. So finishing last year on a high note like he was, and now, coming off what I thought was a really meaningful and purposeful spring for him into the season. Again, I just think he's in a really good mental, physical space right now, and that can be the result with a great player.
Eric and then Bill.
Aaron, what has your bullpen meant to you the last 2 days?
Been huge. We obviously, look, it's certainly been one of the overwhelming strengths of this team now for a while, and we certainly feel like it has a chance to be that this year. And obviously knowing in this month of April, where you're going to have to lean on them for them to go out and pitch the way they have the first 2 nights here to kind of set the tone and against a really good offensive team. That's they're capable of that, and but it's good to see them be as sharp as they have been here in the first 2 games.
Bill.
Aaron, Severino threw 65 pitches. What's next for him in his next start? And also, was he nervous before the game because it was his first start since 2019?
I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure he had some nerves, but Sevy really thrives on the competition part of it and going up against the best too. So I was, you always want to get settled, get through that first hitter kind of, and I thought he did that in a good way, and I felt like he settled in pretty quick in this game. Again, just the one mistake in the second inning to Verdugo, but you always want a guy, especially hasn't started in a long time, to get settled, and I thought he did that in pretty short order there in the first.
Joel.
It's a little bit an offshoot of what Eric just asked you. Usually managers have their A bullpen and their B bullpen, what they use. Do you feel like you could pretty much use anybody to win a game from your bullpen?
I do. And I think, Joel, we learned that a little bit last year when we found ourselves in so many close games. It seemed like every night. So we were forced to do that, when we had to find out about other guys in big situations. And from that, emerged Wandy, Clay Holmes, Lowe becoming what he did last year, Lucas Litke. All those guys pitched in meaningful, high-leverage spots on a given day. And, I certainly – I have a lot of confidence in everyone down there. And I told you before we left, when we were deciding on 15 and 16 pitchers, I felt like it was a good conversation because the candidates for those last two spots are guys that I feel like can really be impactful, and that's nice to have.
Right here, Brendan and Andy.
Aaron, what was the issue with Sevy in the pitch com?
He must have fell out at some point on him, so we had to run one out there. Because it's pretty comfortable in your hat, and then all of a sudden it wasn't there. So I don't know. We got to tighten Sevy up with that a little bit.
Also, what did you see from Joey on the ball where he came in and dove and got past him?
Yeah, I noticed at the time it was a shadowy part of the sun was out early on, so probably didn't get the best read on it right away. And I'd have to go back and look to see if he paused or moved back or whatever, but just that.
Andy.
If Vasquez had gotten on in the second, would that have been it, or would you have given Severino Hernandez?
If
like the long at bat to Vasquez?
Oh, it was close. It was maybe it would have gotten Kike, but as those foul balls started to mount, what did he end up throwing that inning?
It was 12.
No,
inning.
30.
He was at 44 at the end of the inning.
So that would have been about 31. I was prepared to do either, but I'm glad I didn't have to go do it.
Max, do you have a question?
Aaron, for Glaber to make that play up the middle to his backhand, what can that do for his confidence as he starts out
it
this
was a really good play. Tough play because it wasn't smoked, and those are some of the toughest plays when you have to range, and it's not hit incredibly hard. So you got to make sure you stick it, but also know you got to move quickly to get rid of it. That's kind of what happened I think, to Kiner on that ball up the middle where he really ranged really far, but it wasn't hit particularly hard. So you're going to have to get a good transfer, but you got to make sure you secure it. When it's not hit, where it's not smoked, where you get there and it kind of catches itself. It was a tough play that he made, and it was a big play at the time.
Last one, Joel.
Aaron, did you think when you brought in Marinaccio for Severino, just because it's like a leverage part of the game, if it gets away, did you think about a regular reliever there, and then if I need length later, I could go to Marinaccio? Or did you feel like, I'm going to put the kid in the deep water and see what happens?
Yeah, I liked him in that part of the lineup, frankly. And, I knew I didn't want to get overextended with everyone and not having Lowe and King. And, at any point I wasn't going to go long with, Greeny or Holmes or so I didn't feel like I had length if we got in a situation where I was going to have to roll him out there a little bit. But I liked the lane for Ronnie. And you know, I know it's his debut, but he's on this team because we have a lot of confidence in him. And so no, I was definitely going to him at that point in the game. You know, that third, fourth inning. I liked him there.
Thank you.
All right, so a few things there. First thing that jumps out is Severino losing the pitch com thing from his cap, so they had to replace it. And we talked about that on the pregame, and you mentioned that in his last spring start, which you called the play-by-play, that he worked a little fast. And that was a concern of yours, a little too aggressive, a little overamped up. Did you see that?
No, today he looked in perfect rhythm. I didn't think that his rhythm was quick at all. Looked like he was on the same page, obviously, with Higgy. And I love listening to Aaron Boone talk about Sevy, about how he's all into the competition part of this thing. And one thing we have to remember, and we've talked about this a lot, a guy who's been on the IL, has been on the outside looking in. When he comes back with a club and he's able to go out there and compete against the Boston Red Sox, we saw Severino in the dugout afterwards, and when Rizzo hit the home run, very animated, very into it. And when you spend all that time away from a club and you get back, you enjoy every moment. So good for him. He's worked really hard to get back, but to see him part of it as a starting pitcher now, you could tell how much he relished that.
He just wants it to be his new normal, right? Just get back into playing. In the meantime, what jumped out at you with Boone?
Boone talking about his bullpen, and when he was asked if he trusts anyone in that bullpen in any moment to win a game, and he said yes. Now, I know Aaron Boone is an optimistic manager, but I truly believe when he answered that question, he believes that he has so many weapons out there that regardless of the situation, he's going to go to those guys. He's